Molly, get down, please. Come here, Molly. Come on. Get down. Get over here. You don't need to be out there.
Hey, Courtney, just want to do a sound check.
I am here and I can hear you.
All right, great, thanks.
Some of these companies, 50%.
Hey guys, I want to go ahead and welcome everyone to the April Planning Commission meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started. We'll start off with the opening prayer by Vice Chairman Chuck Prater, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Join me in prayer. Precious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've given us. We thank you for the rain. We thank you for the sun. We thank you for the spring glory coming to life. Thank you for this community and for its citizens that we have. And we thank you for this life you give us. Lord, guide us tonight as we make the right decisions. Please protect us. And in doing so, we ask that we would hope that it would bring glory to you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chuck. All right, let's the flag somewhere that way. Let's just I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks everyone. So Kim, let's go ahead and open our Planning Commission meeting and roll call, please.
Lowe.
Here.
Irvin.
Here.
Prater.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Bird. Here. Ward.
Here.
Mowdy.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum. Let's go ahead and get the acceptance of our meeting minutes from last month. Do you have any corrections or additions, comments, discussions? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
A move to approve from Commissioner Lowe. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Byrd. Roll call, please.
Lowe.
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
Prater.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Mowdy.
All right, let's go ahead and open up our Board of Adjustment meeting and go ahead and do a roll call for it as well.
Lowe.
Here.
Irvin.
Here.
Prater.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Bird.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Mowdy.
All right, same thing, meeting minutes from March. Any corrections or additions? Recommend approval if not.
I make a motion.
I got a motion from Commissioner Prater. To have a second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Ward. Roll call, please.
Lowe.
Yes.
Irvin.
Yes.
Prater.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Mowdy.
All right, minutes are approved. Let's go ahead and get into new business. Kim, first item.
12 Cimarron Circle, variance to allow for a driveway width over the maximum allowed size. Randy Jones.
All right, Courtney, you want to start us off with the staff report first?
Absolutely. So this is one of the new lots in Heritage Meadows subdivision off of Campground Road. It's a 12 Cimarron Circle, Lot 2. This parcel has recently been developed and it didn't even show up yet on the aerial. Sorry about that. So it's Lot 2. And what happened is the developer constructed a 30-foot wide driveway, and their intent was because they know that they have extra vehicles and wanted to avoid parking in the street. Unfortunately, Cabot's code says you cannot have more than 25 feet wide driveway. I do think that based on their application, this was a mistake. And so they're asking for that additional 5 feet to allow to stay.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Is the applicant here to speak to this item? Or online, if anybody wants to speak to this? Either for or against? Is this Randy? Randy, you're on mute if you're,
How about now?
there you go. Now we can hear you. Thanks. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little bit new to this Zoom. Yeah, I'd like to speak for the developer, Kathy and John C. They've constructed several hundred houses in Cabot and Ward and Austin, and I don't think they were aware of this driveway requirement. And the buyer of this particular property asked to have a wider driveway. It's my understanding he's a police officer, and I'm not sure what jurisdiction he's in, but sometimes he needs to bring the police car home. And they were just trying to have an extra wide driveway so they wouldn't need to park on the street or park on the sidewalk. So the developer, or the builder in this case, agreed to install the extra wide driveway. So that's how we got to where we are. And hopefully we can get approval to keep it as it is so he can have room to park this extra car without interfering with home street parking or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Randy. And just for clarification for the commission, if you guys seen the pictures, it's not the entire width of it. It's where it necks down to the street. That's the requirement. So it's not that he couldn't have a wider driveway. It's where it meets the street. It's supposed to widen down. I think, what is it, 24 feet, 25 feet?
25.
Yeah, 25 feet max. So what you'd normally would seen here is it, come in 25 feet and then flare out to the wider. So any questions from the commission?
Mr. Commissioner, we dealt with this last year at Greystone. Remember, it came up, and I remember the city was going to look into that, see why do we have this restriction? Reason for it, I guess nothing. Done about it.
Yeah, because my thought was if you have a 3-car garage and you're limited to 25 feet, I mean.
Make sure you're speaking into for Zoom land.
Okay. My thought was when I saw this is if you have a 3-car garage that faces the road and you're restricted to 25 feet and, the 3-car garage is much bigger than 25 feet on frontage, probably 99% of the time.
True. It's for uniformity. I mean, just to establish some of your subdivisions all have the same size driveway. It doesn't prohibit you from widening up to queue it up for a 3-car. It's just, where it meets the road, or you'd have all kinds of different widths. So, I'm sorry. Randy, was that you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a little trouble here, but I might add, because of the sidewalk and, you have about 11.5 feet from the back of the curb to the property line. And I'm assuming that at the property line is where this flare out would take place. And that's not a lot of room.
We lost you, Randy. All right, Commissioner Lowe.
My question was, what would need to be done to make
That makes a kind of a little messy curve to make that happen.
Randy, we lost about half of that. So,
Okay, all I was saying was you only have 11.5 feet from the back of the curb to the property line.
right.
Typically at the property line is where you can have the extra width. And so you only have 11.5 feet to make that transition to the 25 or whatever the normal width is to the width that they have. So you end up with a pretty tight radius, and it's kind of hard to maneuver that. And actually with the sidewalk, it's just a lot better if you could just have a straight shot to come into the driveway and not have that little hook. So obviously that's what they've done in this situation.
Sure. Okay. Commissioner Lowe, sorry.
My comment was just asking what needs to be done to make the compliance. He said it's 11 feet. So is the 25 foot for all of the right of way? So everything in the right of way would have to be 25 foot or less?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Not counting curb turns. Right? So with curb turns, how wide is this driveway?
I think it's 30 feet. 30 feet.
So I was just wondering, because before I was on the commission, I had no idea about this either until it come up. But I know John and Kathy have been building for years. So is the city not doing a very good job? I mean, why do people not know about that?
That's a good question.
Well, as far as I've done a lot of work for John and Kathy over the years, and I don't know that this has ever come up where somebody has asked for a wider driveway till now. You know, they do put double, two-car garages, and they usually make the driveway wider than the garage door, which makes it better. But in this case, they'd like to get that third car on concrete and not on the street.
Right, Laura, do you know the background on the ordinance?
As far as this one, it actually was caught the day that they were pouring concrete. So that's how this one came about. There are several in and around town that are wider than 25. There have been several that have come before here asking for a variance. We've tried several times to catch as many builders as we can to notify them of 25 feet. I've looked into the possibility of revising it. I've just not made it that far to bring that part to planning commission to revise the code as well as to city council. Most of the time it's not an issue because the radius isn't too difficult, but when you get into smaller lots, that 11.5 foot does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I might add in other jurisdictions, which of course it doesn't really matter, but they are allowed. In fact, my driveway is a 3-car garage and it goes straight to the street. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but in other places, 3-car driveways are very common.
I mean, I would probably be inclined to make a motion for this. What I'm just wondering is, how many more times will this come back up? Do we need to address it going forward? Are we gonna change it, or do we need to address it with all the builders? Because like I say, John and Kathy, I would assume would have known this rule as long as they've been building, or them not to know. That's all I'm saying about it.
Yeah. I think it is worth Laura pursuing that just to see what would be the next step to look into modifying the UDC and see if we.
I would make a comment that I know in Little Rock it is like 20 feet width inside the right of way. And then that's because of uniformity and also control the access to the street. So you don't have cars coming at any point. It's a very dedicated space for cars coming across the sidewalk. Not wide enough crossing on the sidewalk.
Right. That's pretty narrow. It's something else, Randy?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time here. I couldn't really understand what the last comment was, but if you can't park 2 cars end to end without blocking the sidewalk. So that's the big consideration in this thing.
Sure. Well, Commission, you've got the power to approve the variance. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
I got a motion from Commissioner Ward to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Irvin. Roll call, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Mouty.
Yes.
The variance is granted. So thanks, Randy.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will adjourn the Board of Adjustment meeting and go ahead and go back into our Planning Commission meeting. I don't have any items for public hearing comments. We'll come back around to any community input towards the end. New business items. Kim, let's go ahead and jump into our first item of business.
Site plan Lot 2, South Rockwood Edition, revised, Lemons Engineering.
Courtney, you want to go ahead and give us a brief staff report?
Absolutely. This is located it's north of South Rockwood Drive, accessed via an easement. This was an approved site plan previously. They got approval for 3 RV covered bays beforehand, but now they're coming back and asking for a smaller footprint overall on the building. So what's on your screen right now is what was approved previously. As you can see, most of the site was incorporated. It's approximately 3.7 acres in size. And so if you can see, that previous plan covered most of the site, and now they're asking for a much smaller footprint, but it's the same, very similar uses for RV storage and for parts and services. So it's changed the use just a little bit as well. Staff does have some outstanding comments related to parking. They are showing 13 parking spaces on the site, and we calculate that they need 30. We also have, we may need to have a discussion about the dumpster. They would like to share a dumpster with the property to the south. As planning staff, I've commented that while these are two separate properties and can be sold separately, sharing a dumpster doesn't bode well necessarily for that. But if the planning commission wants to allow it, then you're allowed to do that. And we also don't have exterior elevations of the site. And those, the applicant stated that those would be provided by the architect, but I have not received those yet. And then they needed some additional drainage review as well, if the city engineer is on. And they referenced the old plan for their dump station, but I think that probably needs to get incorporated into the new plans since they're asking for that, and the old plan would be void. But really, overall, they are covering less of the site, and they are requesting a similar use to what was approved. They're just doing a little more parts and services versus just storage like was approved before.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. I want to have Brian Vines come up and talk a little bit about the drainage calcs. There were some comments about the drainage calculations that were submitted.
We got the drainage report this morning. Just looking at the runoff coefficients on the site, it looks like they need to relook at that. We got about 1.7 acres that they're saying is going to be grass. Look at the site, that's just more on the edges. When I'm taking a look at that, check the areas, that's about less than half an acre. So I think if you just look at the surfaces, either they're not defined well on the plan, so I'm not finding them, or he just needs to take a look at that.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, so it should increase post-development zone.
Okay. Applicant Tim Lemons, are you going to speak for the applicant today?
Sure. I talked to Laura yesterday, and she brought me up to snuff on some of the comments that were previously discussed. I was kind of going to go over those with you. On the parking, this is going to be for employee parking only. About 1,200 square foot of that 13,000 square foot building is going to be used for offices. And so if you use that calculation, come up with five parking spots. Actually, we have 13 planned, that's for employees. The vast majority of that building is going to be, you will see there's bays along the north side. That's going to be to pull an RV in there and work on it. So therefore, in our opinion, you shouldn't take into account the warehouse and the other areas for parking. So we feel like the 13 parking spots are 2.5 times what we need, but to meet code, but they wanted this for the employees that are going to be working in the building. So I feel like the parking is fine. As far as the dumpster, Strzelecki's put in Kikos. This is the second part of their development. And truthfully, they don't want to spend an extra $300-400 a month to have two dumpsters that are literally across the property line from each other. They would like to use the dumpster that they have at Kikos for both businesses. And if I need to get a letter from Mr. Strzelecki, stating that that is the case. Of course, if they ever sell one or both lots, they could address it at that time. And so, we just don't see the need to have the two dumpsters right across the property line from each other. The exterior elevations, Laura, did you ever get those? Okay, so Laura did get the exterior elevations from the architect. Let me jump ahead to the dump station. That also was added onto the plan that you got yesterday, so we have that addressed. So really, the only outstanding issue outside the dumpster is the drainage calculations. I'll be more than glad to go back and revisit those. We're discharging into a flood zone, so it is not going to impact the culverts or the way that we're doing things, but if the city so desired, I will go back and look at the drainage calculations.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Any questions?
Questions from commissioners?
Excuse me for my ignorance, but on the dumpster, do we require them to pay for the dumpster, or was that just asking to have spots set for it?
Spot, a plate location for it.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be requiring them to you just set the location on the building. In case they decide, because they are keeping it a separate property, correct?
Well, yes, there is a fence that restricts the flow of traffic from Kiko's over this side, but, they plan on putting a man gate in there so they can walk with the trash in the dumpster. I mean, there's not gonna be enough trash generated between the two to fill one dumpster. So.
The city requirements are location and a screen enclosure, so that's,
But they wouldn't.
it wouldn't be,
Have to put a dumpster.
That's
there.
right.
They could just have it, just in case they sold it in the future.
That's right.
It would already be sold.
any other questions for Tim?
Is this, this phase of it, is that just for storage?
It's for parts and service on the RVs that they sell.
There's a small covered area. Is that not for storage?
Well, that's where they're gonna put, when the bays are all full, and people bring a vehicle in there to be serviced, so that's additional storage as needed. They didn't want to, when somebody purchases an RV, they want to try to protect it best they can when they come in and get serviced, and the bays are full, they're gonna put them in that canopy that's in the back, so they don't get hail damage, because I'm sure when you pull it over the side of a hailstorm comes up, they're gonna want it to get fixed, so they're trying to protect their interests and that of their customers.
The parts and service, the parts and service area, is that going to be accessible to customers coming in and purchasing parts? Or is it just specifically for
I would say,
maintenance?
are they going to prohibit access as far as keeping the gate closed during normal hours? No, the gates will be open. If someone did come to the dealership and they didn't have a certain part there and they were sent back there could be an occasional public person going back there, yes. But it's going to be more an exception than a rule.
And how many employees are they estimating?
I think they're going to have about 8 or 9 employees, and so we've got 5 parking spots for extra. We just did the parking the way we did because we had the area there to do it. So we got more than the parking for employees and anybody that might occasionally come back.
So really it's not parts and services like sales. It's supposed to be a repair.
This maintenance of RVs, yes, it's more maintenance than anything else. They're selling them on lot 1, which is the property to the south. This is more of a service place, like a lot of dealerships have. They have a service here. There's no place on Kiko's right now to service RVs when they come in for service. The building is all for merchandise.
And the office area I had is 2,400 square feet, but you said maybe it was only 12.
Right, the new plan that we submitted to Laura yesterday that you may not have seen, half of that is parts, half of that is office. So the 24 divided by 12 is, or by 2 is 12.
I guess I'm missing the parking where it shows 26, but I see a whole lot of gravel.
There's gonna be a lot of gravel, yes.
So I mean, really, if there's overflow parking, that's where park.
They have a place to park, yes, but that's not gonna be their standard operation. They won't clear the campus. We talked about putting more grass and landscape out there, and I already said I'm gonna describe the whole thing, so.
Any other questions?
Regarding the drainage, how big is this area?
It's approximately 3.6 acres, I believe.
Impervious. What condition?
Clay. There's no vegetation on the property at all right now. And it was like that before they bought it. It has been just dirt for years. I'm not sure what was on it years ago, but when it closed down, nothing happened. It's considered conformity.
So this will sheet flow off to the
Northeast,
onto,
floodplain that is on their property to the north. They own the property to the north of this as well. Approximately another 5 acres.
how far is the floodplain?
Floodplain comes within probably about 100 feet of that northeast corner. It's really close. And that's what FEMA shows. We haven't shot elevations on that north 5 acres, but I would say it very well could be very close to that northeast corner. We're pretty close there now to elevation.
A question for Laura. Fire and water approvals. Have they looked at those?
The fire department, did
Fire.
they have any additional comments? The water department, Tim did submit on the revised site plan, the sewer dump station. As far as I know, we've not heard back from the Cabot Works on if they're good with that yet.
Okay. Are any other questions from the commission?
Is there no requirement for detention?
Well, I think that's part of the drainage calcs. Brian, I guess looking at the drainage calcs requirement for detention.
We're looking at the numbers, it'd be an increase of about 6 to 7 CFS.
But do you want to detain that close to the floodplain? I wouldn't think so.
Well, my question was, do you need a variance to not have detention?
Oh, yes. So I disagree with him from the standpoint that I'm showing an increase of a little bit less, but that's probably because he's using a different C factor than I am because of the grass versus gravel. But right now it's all right. That's the best way to put it. There is no absorption right now.
Any other questions, commissions? Looks like we got quite a few contingencies if you guys decide to approve this. We got a lot of, it's probably reflected most accurately in the staff report. So
Well, actually, the staff report, we've addressed a lot of those comments. Oh, we got a new staff comment? Oh, okay.
so any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with staff comments. I recommend that you have a double pad site on the plan.
Okay, get a motion to approve for Commissioner Lowe with the contingencies and also with the dumpster pad location. A second?
I second.
The second for Commissioner Ward. Roll call, please, Kim.
Lowe,
Yes.
Urban,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes,
Ward,
Yes.
Matty.
Yes.
All right, site plan is approved with those contingencies. Next item of business, item B.
Final plat, lot 1, Good Earth Learning Center, Davidson Engineering.
Courtney?
Yes, so the final plat is just to split off lot 1, which is 2.19 acres. This is located off of, excuse me, located off of South Polk Drive, just north of the railroad tracks. It was originally a 10-acre piece, and they are splitting off 2.19 acres. There are no remaining comments from staff on this request.
Okay, short and sweet. Thanks, Courtney. And I guess you guys are the applicants?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's your-
Brad Davidson, Andy.
Barry Davidson, okay. Any other things you'd like to add to the presentation?
No, sir, not on this one.
Okay. All right. Seems to be pretty short and sweet. Anybody have any questions? All the comments been met in the staff report and entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Lowe and a second from who was that? Prater? Roll call, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Young, sorry, Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Mounty.
Yes.
All right. Final plat is approved, so we'll go ahead and go into the site plan. Item C, Kim,
Site plan, lot 1, Goodurf Learning Center, Davidson Engineering.
and we'll go back through Courtney again.
Yeah, same site that we just talked about. This request though is for a daycare facility. It's a 4,600 square foot daycare, a 3,300 square foot pole barn, and a small 350 square foot office building and associated parking. There were several items remaining on this one as well. Mostly there's some cleanup that needs to happen and some more dimensioning on the plans will make things more clear. The parking calculations, if we add, so their parking requires that they are supposed to have 29 spaces. And so we're going to allow the parking that is drop off pickup spaces for the parents to be used in that number as long as they don't block the accessibility and as long as there are signs posted that indicate that is not real parking. You have to keep moving. So that's per the fire marshal because that's also the fire lane. But staff is okay with the number of spaces as long as those conditions are met. So we can't block the ADA space and we need to post fire lane signs that say they cannot park there. Nobody can leave the vehicle. They also have not provided exterior elevations at this time, and they have requested that they not be required. However, that's part of requesting a site plan with buildings is that you have your site plan elevations so that we can, or your architectural elevations so that we can check them to make sure that they meet the building design standards. So that information is provided. I had a couple of questions about the drainage. If Mr. Vines can speak to the drainage, I wasn't sure what had happened on the drainage report there. And then he had some pretty serious concerns about the finished floor elevations, and then about the ADA accessibility. So I would like to hear from him on that as well. And I think those are the main details. So it's just making sure that the parking gets shifted and fixed and making sure that we get exterior elevations and then comments from Mr. Vines on detention and ADA accessibility.
Okay, let's go ahead and get Brian to give us his comments on
On the drainage, I don't know that we have any comments now after looking at the drainage report. On the ADA, on the west side of the loop, looks like we've got ramps coming together or sidewalks coming together at the ramp. Just noting that as long as they're addressing it, I don't think that's an issue. But right now, it's like we've got sidewalk coming into the ramp section.
Okay.
Right.
So as long as the ramp converge and create a safe ADA accessible
If we made
structure.
that entire transition between the sidewalk running parallel to the pole and the sidewalk running up to the side flush with gutter elevation and ramp in both directions, I think that we're okay. We probably just need to detail that a little better on our building permits. But I understand the comment more clearly than I was understanding it differently when I was reading it. So, but that makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to go ahead, Barry, and is there anything else you want to add to the comments or update us?
There was two things that we wanted to discuss. The first was parking, but it sounds like we certainly be agreeable to what was mentioned just a moment ago about shifting the location of one of those loading spaces to avoid the ADA path, and also making sure that that is marked clearly as a fire lane. The vehicles are to be occupied when they're in the location. So I feel like we're on the same page there. The second item dealt with the building elevations. We had requested that we could hold off on submitting those until the building permit phase, but through discussing that floor today, I understand that not to be an option. So we would just ask that this commission approve the site plan contingent upon building elevations being submitted at a later date to the satisfaction of the staff.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And Mr. Vines, did you have any additional comments about the finished floor elevations? The applicant stated that they were adding a swale. So I just want to make sure, since we're talking about a daycare, that we don't think there's any issues.
I'll speak to that a little bit first, if that's okay. The general slope of this side is from south to north. So from the railroad tracks, excuse me, towards the creek that's on the property north and adjacent to us. So there is some runoff from those tracks into our parking area. I believe we're protected to some extent by the curb and gutter that surrounds that parking area. And so the concerning stormwater is only that falls between the back curb on the north side of that parking and the building itself. We feel like we can address that with a general swale that runs west to east. So from bottom of the plan sheet to top of the plan sheet. And our concern with raising the finished floor anymore is that our grades from street to the front door of the daycare are just under 5%, which is what's required with ADA. If we increase that finished floor anymore, I'm concerned that we would not be in compliance with ADA by raising the finished floor. So I feel that the curb protects us on the south side of the building. I understand there's still some concern and there has to be some attention to detail during construction, but I feel like we could accomplish protecting the building from runoff with the general swale that sheds water to the east.
It looks like you're 275.5 and you're right in between 275 and 276. So you're right on grade. I mean, that's pretty close. I'd feel better about you setting the grade at least 276.5. I mean, just to make sure you get it above the grade. That's just my recommendation.
In lieu of doing that, I think my concern is that the ADA, we're going to run into some trouble with our ADA slopes from our ADA parking spaces.
Yeah.
So we have a few revisions to make here as part of these comments and notes. If I added a note to that area between the parking and the building, and maybe even a half foot contour, just to show that area between the two is lower than finished floor. Just so whoever the contractor is, it's clearly shown that that's to be lower than finished floor.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better about that than raising that grade. I'm just concerned we're going to get out of ADA compliance if we raise it any higher.
Yeah, or put a swale on the south side that takes it around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if I said east earlier, I meant south, that area between the daycare and the 18 parking spaces.
Right.
Right.
Or if you looked at maybe a raised crossing or something across from your ADA that definitely would be great.
A raised crossing?
Such as a raised crosswalk or something like that across there, we'd have to get across.
Which wouldn't be a bad idea from a speed determinant thing too. Just keep people from going slow around that corner.
I'm not following you. I'm sorry. At what location?
You raise your exit, raise your handicap parking spots 6 inches and create a raise a crosswalk across your parking lot there to your front door.
Yeah, if we need to raise the finished floor, I'll raise those ADA spaces equivalent to the same amount.
One question I had, you mentioned, and Courtney, you mentioned that the spaces along the edge count towards the parking, but I thought I heard too that that's the fire lane and you're not allowed to park in the fire lane.
Correct. Courtney did speak on that. Staff is not going to allow the staging spaces to be computed as their calculation for parking because it is a fire lane. We can't use those spaces as parking spaces because the fire department sees that as a fire lane for no parking. They're allowing it for staging and drop off only. So we'll have to make up the 9 spaces somewhere else.
Okay, that's not what I heard earlier. I apologize.
Yeah, well, we heard the same thing, so that's why I was clarifying it with
I was understanding
Laura.
that to mean that, excuse me, that those 9 spaces could be used as staging But yet the 18 or 20, I should say, down our ADA was adequate, based on the staff's review of the site. My opinion, Ms. Horn's opinion, that it is adequate, and that's based on, Ms. Horn runs the daycare currently. This is a new location that she'd be moving to. And from talking to her and her son, they typically have 6 spaces occupied right now, generally throughout the day. We have 20 shown here, which is quite a bit more, so we'll have some empty spaces. If we are required to add 9 additional, that would get us up to 29 independent parking spaces. And the maximum occupancy for this daycare is 90 children. Equates to 1 space for every 3 children. It just sure seems like overkill from our perspective based on our experience with the current business.
What does the code say?
The code doesn't specifically list daycares, and so in our opinion, that falls under that last line item in the table, which is other uses, and its requirement is left up to the planning commission. So I feel like what we have shown could be approved without varying from y'all's code, just based on the fact that it falls into other uses on that chart.
Sure. How many, you said there's 6 staff currently is what you have now, is what you'd plan to have in this facility. How many kids does that equate to, and how many rooms inside it? And just kind of give us a feel for what you're thinking about.
But with the additional square footage, this one may have up to 10 employees at this new site.
Up to 10 employees.
But right now she has 6 generally on site, so she has 6 spaces occupied. It's not a common occurrence it doesn't never happen, but it's not common for a parent to come and stay for a long period of time.
And I apologize, I did misspeak. Me and Laura had discussed 2 different possibilities, so I apologize. They do have 20 available spaces, and we'll need the extra 9.
Yeah, no worries, Courtney.
Chairman, if you do want me to quote what it says as far as parking,
Yeah, if you have it handy, just curious.
on the parking calculations, you have to list out floor area and the number of employees. The parking spaces are based on 1 space per 500 square feet of floor area, 1 space per employee, and 1 space for every 10 persons in care. And that computes to be in 29 parking spaces required.
Is that in, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that. Is that from y'all's zoning code or?
So they're all street parking.
Say that again, Lauren.
1 space per 500 square feet of floor area, 1 space per employee, and 1 space for each 10 persons in care.
Which line item is that under, Laura? As far as the different uses listed.
The 1 to 500 is over 9. If it's 1 space per 500 square feet, it'd be 10 spaces required. And the 1 space per employee would be 10 spaces if she's talking about 10 staff.
And that got us to that 20 number that we have shown currently.
And then the 1 to 10 was, what was that ratio? For
Person in care.
each person of care. Yeah, how many kids are we taking care of?
Up to 90 maximum based on.
This is going to be a daycare is considered personal care, and that's what the parking calculation is for.
Personal care.
If you go into our definitions, daycares, nursing homes, anything that's taking care of an individual is considered personal care.
But Laura, it does say that they need to have 1 space, a loading space, 1 space per each 10 persons in care. But the parking is just the one space per 500 square feet and one space per employee. I think the 1 per 10 is under loading. And I think that was our previous conversation. I'm sorry if I'm getting mixed up again. So.
I mean, yeah,
It seems like there's some, maybe a little bit of ambiguity, if nothing else, in the code. I just would ask that based on Ms. Horn's experience with her current facility and her parking requirements, and also I'd like to point out, I don't know if you're familiar with her current business. It's probably a little bit different than some of the daycares you might be familiar with, but one of the goals for this site is to maintain somewhat of a forest and natural setting. And we're not trying to be difficult in asking not to build 9 more parking spaces. We just would like to limit the amount of trees we cut down. I don't know if you had a chance to review our construction drawings, but you'll notice there's several areas marked off as tree protection areas. That's for a reason. We really don't desire to clear cut this site. We want to leave as much of the natural vegetation as we can. And we really don't want to build 9 additional parking spaces, knowing we won't have a need for them based on her history with her current business.
yeah,
By all means, I'm sorry, Chairman.
go ahead.
The staff is not in rejection of the planning commission approving them with lesser spaces.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out all the background here.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I drive by there quite often, which by the way is awesome. It's an awesome place. I love watching the kids run out, run the vans. You do have some overflow across the road though. And so I'm sure, I've had kids in daycare, every now and then you'll have a function or something, or you'll have multiple parents at one time. Would there be a way of maybe creating an overflow without having to actually pay it? An opportunity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, will you have events like that, or is this?
We don't currently have events to that effect. The parking across the street that you notice, that's the staff parking. The parking immediately in front of the facility is where parents pick up occurs. And I was telling there, because parents, our system is so different, so whether parents can drop off from 6 till 10 a.m. and they start picking up at 2:30 or 6 p.m. There are rarely more than 5 or 6 parents at a time, even picking up just because they can just. It's just more fluid. We don't have events where parents are there. They just, that's the way it is. Our whole thing is to be different. We don't have all these days where kids dress up as different things. We don't have a lot of parent requirements of showing up to a bunch of stuff. These kids just come and live naturally like they're from their grandma's house and play and learn. That's the whole point. We learn the nature of it. So we're just trying to make sure we do what fits well into the city code and bring the business that's currently thriving into this area that really nobody's used for anything else. But to try to do the least amount of damage to the ecology. So
Sure. Thanks, Ms. Horn.
sure, we just wanted to make it perfectly clear that it's, we're okay, staff's okay with this. We just want it to be known that the fire lane cannot be used as parking.
Right.
Chairman, I'm thinking if for some reason you could designate an area in case it did change, the style of your daycare did change, or you did grow, or, a designated future overflow parking or something. That way you wouldn't have to tear down the trees immediately. But if it did happen, the city's always becoming a problem, there would be a designated area for the future.
I'd be glad to show in halftone on the north side of future parking area as needed, subject to planning commission approval.
I think that'd be great. Yeah. Any other questions, Commissioner?
Street out front, street to this, are you improving that street? Is there gonna be, will parking be provided out on that street?
I don't foresee there being space for on-street parking. We are going to conform with your half street improvement requirements. So 14 feet from the center line, we're going to install a concrete curb and gutter and sidewalk adjacent to the south pole. But I'm going from memory. I think that leaves a 28-foot width of travel. In reality, yeah, you could have some on-street parking. I don't know that it'd be what the city would want for that to be a common occurrence. So. But I mean, in reality, this is the only development on that street, and it's the furthest south a development could be built because that old railroad crossing is no longer there. So it probably wouldn't create a potential traffic issue. I don't know that we should plan for that, but for there to be on-street parking.
But that is not for prevention, things like that.
So I can't imagine it creating any issues.
Barry, the sidewalk is shown stopping a little ways before it gets to the south. Is that intentional, or is it just cut off graphically, or?
No, it was intentional. We stopped it at the edge of our new development. Our property goes the whole way to the railroad, and South Pole, the old pavement extends a little bit further south of our development. I don't know if it was demoed when the railroad crossing or if it's just dilapidated beyond that point that I have shown close to the railroad. So yeah, we had stopped it there intentionally, strictly because this is the end of the road essentially, that there could be no further development south of us.
Laura, did that make staff approval for that?
Typically, we would require sidewalks to go to property line to property line. In this case, staff would not recommend going to the railroad track side of the property to deter anybody from continuing to keep crossing that railroad crossing, because we have numerous complaints from the railroad company from students just leaving the school, crossing that area back and forth. So the railroad company is actually is asking the city as much as possible to not do anything that would ask for traffic to be going that direction. And that crossing, the railroad company has said that crossing probably will never reopen.
Does that sidewalk need to maybe just turn up and go north and try to loop back to the sidewalk? And I'd rather see it go, engage the driveway instead of stub out and be a dead end, if you're trying to encourage traffic to go on to the next development.
So go around the drive instead of getting it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, we do have sidewalk on that south side, Mr. Young, so instead of just continuing it.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Instead of continuing it another 20 feet or whatever that is, and then it does make a lot of sense for it just to connect with our driving, and that is just where the sidewalk terminates.
Stop there. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'd be glad to make that change.
If commission's okay with that, or thinks that's a good idea.
Take that curve out, put some parking.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I guess it brings me to a question about along the tracks. Is there a fence going along here or something? Just a safety barrier or something?
We do have a fence shown around our facility to keep the children away from those tracks. We don't have plans to do an entire perimeter fence around the property, but in the areas where there will be children present, there'll be in an enclosed fenced area.
I was gonna ask that question too. Is it right behind the daycare? Is that where they're gonna be playing?
And connecting with the covered pole barn or patio area.
2 years ago, told us out here a story off the subject, but we were out there in ball fields, playing ball, soccer fields, and the railroad company was coming down bush hogging, and they threw a rock, and it went 75 yards, and went through my mother-in-law's back. When it hit a kid in the throat, it killed him. Don't want to scare you.
You don't have to.
But for protection.
Yeah.
But again, I guess my question, there will be along that property line, will be a fence.
No, sir, we don't currently have that shown, just in the rear area along the east property line, not along the south property line.
Just protects the playground area.
Yeah, well, the kid gets away. They're fascinated by trains.
Right.
There's some way to protect kids.
Sure, yeah,
Okay,
I was just thinking.
so currently, we've been on operation 7 years, we're located right along the interstate. That's part of our included fenced area. And then we have nature walks every day on the farm. They have a special permission to do that, to go on the field trip. Where children are allowed to play freely, DHS requires fenced in play space. When we go on a nature walk, they're closely protected. Currently, the DHS regulations is one staff for 14 children for 4 and up. Ours is 1 to 7. We're basically double staffed at this facility. These children are watched. Freak accidents happen, mowing accidents happen. We do everything we can to keep it a safe environment. I have a history of being human resources and safety officer in corporate America. I work post to post, field and safety issues. But the plan right now is follow DHS regulations for safety with children in play space.
Thanks, Ms. Warren. Any other questions, Commissioners?
Yeah, you mentioned the pole barn as a picnic area or whatever. What is going to be the intended use of that pole barn? And the reason why I'm asking is because we don't have building elevations, and how is that going to meet our UDC code for facades? Is it open with a roof?
Yeah, it's just open with a roof. Its use is part of Ms. Moore's program. The children are outside quite a bit. And so this provides them a place to go outside even on a rainy day. So it'll be open air, just with a metal roof structure. And we'll submit with the elevations, an elevation for that as well. It won't look like much because it's open air, but you'll see the roof structure and the support structure.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion for approval.
A motion from Commissioner Prater. Do you have a second?
A second.
Second from Commissioner Ward. Roll call, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Mowdy.
Yes.
All right, site plan is approved. Thank you all.
For your time.
They take naps.
Yeah, we
We're gonna railroad. They're gonna wake up. Y'all think so bad?
Hey, I will tell you how it's, but I am so excited about that road track, because they come to maybe 4 times during our work day. That interstate is.
It's loud all the time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. All right, so next item, Kim.
Final plat, lot 1R, Cabot Commerce Center, Phase 2, Lemons Engineering.
All right, Courtney.
Yes, this is located on Jaden Commercial Court, and there are 2 parcels currently. Lot 1 is 2.04 acres and lot 2 is 3.45 acres. And the request is to combine these 2 lots into one lot that is 5.09 acres in size. They just had comments on the certificate, like who owns it. Either we need the current owner to sign it, or they need to provide the information that states that the owner is giving permission. All of the other comments have been addressed.
All right, Tim, you want to add to that?
Actually, nothing to add except for if this is not approved, there will not be a transaction. And so we will not be recording the replat. So therefore, we're just holding off. If the replat is approved, they're going to go and close on the property, and then the buyer will sign as the owner.
Okay, easy enough.
All we got to do all together.
All right,
Glad to answer any questions.
commissioners have any questions? I'd entertain a motion. Motion for Commissioner Lowe, second.
Second.
Second from Mowdy. Roll call, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Mowdy.
Yes.
All right, that final plat is approved.
Thank you.
All right, next item of business.
Replat, lots 299R through 301R, Greystone subdivision, the Massey Development Group.
Courtney?
Yes, thank you. This is, these lots are located on Hickory Valley Drive. They're highlighted on the plan there. There's 3 parcels, and what they want to do is they want to increase the size of lot 301, which will be 301RR. So that's the one on the south, by 10 feet. And that they'll do that by reducing the size of lot 299R and 300RR by 5 feet each. They don't propose to change the zoning, and there's currently no structures on the site. There is an existing easement between lots 299 and 300 and that needs to remain because there are existing utilities in that area. They had all comments except for they needed to add the side setbacks onto the setback table. So overall, it's 3 lots now. It will be 3 lots when they're done. They just want to shift the lines a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Anyone here to speak to this one?
Yes, this is Lance. The reasoning behind the shifting of the lines is we purchased all 3 of the lots together right before Christmas. And normally we would just, build what we can to fit inside the parameters of the lot lines and stuff. But when with this, the first lot's actually going to be a spec, and with the pandemic and everything going on and the pricing of materials, we decided just to do one at a time versus doing all 3 of them simultaneously, which is what we normally would do. And anybody that's ever built, when you go to the bank and get financing, and you have to have your house plans already ready to go. So we had already had the plan finalized, had funding from the bank. And when we got out there with our surveyor to locate the lines, we were basically this all started because we were unaware of the fact that these lots had been replatted before. We were going off the information from the seller and the seller's agent. And so basically we lost a few feet on the square footage of everything. And so the plan is not going to work. It has a 3-car side entry garage that reduced our plan down to, I think, around the 16, 17 feet mark. So full size Tahoe or SUV would barely have enough room with the garage closed to be able to even park. And so we can either go back and readjust all the plans and then have to go back to the bank. We could try to, work out a deal with the title company, since they didn't show it up on their end when they're in the title insurance search and all that there was already a replat that had been performed. Or we're just requesting, since we own the other 2 lots as well, to take a little bit off each one of them. We do not foresee it as being a problem for the building of those later on. There's still plenty of space to do houses of like and similar kind. So that is the reason for the request for the replat.
Okay, thanks, Lance.
Yes.
Any other questions for Lance or Courtney? Not, I entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Byrd. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Irving. Roll call, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Irvin,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Mowdy.
Yes.
All right, the replat is approved. Good luck, Lance.
Thank
you. All right, community input. Anybody have anything for us? Alicia, you have anything for us? All right, seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Courtney.